I became an artist, I would say, because I've always wanted to become an artist. Like, it was definitely my dream as a little kid.
I've been making art since I was little, so it's just always been like a really fun way to get lost in creating your own sort of world, I guess.
I kept on making these studios everywhere I went. Like, I had a studio at my parents' house, and then I made a studio like in my tiny room of our ski bum house, and I would just stay up there for hours making art. And my roommates, they were encouraging, but they kind of were like, that weird girl's up there making art.
So the style that I like to create isn't really it's not really like anything that I think I've seen before. I call it 3D collage. And so I'm using different techniques. I really like to use fluid art techniques to create backgrounds. I like to mix that with historical pictures and portraits based off historical pictures. And then I also like to add resin, so that there's shadows where you can see, you can see shadows from things that are painted on top of the resin underneath it. So I don't really know anybody personally that does this. I just kind of picked what I liked from different styles and was like, what if I combine all these together one day? And this is what I get.
I create surreal illustrations. My process consists of basically sketching it out first, tracing, fine-tuning, and then transferring to the final surface. And then using either colored pencils, pen and ink, graphite, a lot of illustration mediums.
I have created a Photoshop painting. That's kind of what I've dubbed it at this point. I collage a bunch of digital images that I collect when I'm out on my adventures, wherever I may be. I'm not kidding you. I take a phone, I go and I snap a bunch of photos, and then I import that into a computer program, Photoshop, and then in order to blow them up to a scalable size where I don't have pixelated imagery, I actually take the Photoshop document and I vectorize it in Illustrator, and it winds up actually giving the final image an impressionistic aesthetic about it, ultimately.
Well, I create imagery. Actually, I'm not sure I create imagery, I create the environment for imagery. The imagery is there. It's always there, it's all around us. The artist's part, I think, is selecting which of these things that we see all the time to isolate and say this is particularly beautiful or intriguing, focus on that, capture this moment, sort of transient moments that we see but we don't have time because they're very fast, to isolate and then be able to scrutinize, to really examine.
So I guess with my artwork, I'm always trying to find ways to communicate the hard feelings that aren't always accepted or allowed. I feel like a lot of people push back when you have a feeling that's not happy.
This piece also incorporates the COVID-19 pandemic, in that when I submitted my idea and everything, it was 3 bear skulls initially to represent the 300,000 people that America had lost at that point. And since completing it, we've lost over another 200,000 lives.
But I think it's important to kind of hone in on those moments that make us whole and make us human. It's, you know, the darker moments is where the good parts come out.
Pretty much anything can inspire me, because artists, I think artists are always translating. Like, we're taking everything in and then we amplify the things we think are most important. And you can notice in my images, like, everybody's smiling. But that when I do my process, like they're not always happy thoughts, right? Like sometimes I have to take something abject and use it for a virtuous purpose. And that's like a long tradition of artists and writers that do that.
Color is a huge theme in my artwork. One of the reasons I create such colorful artwork is because I want to bring a lot of positivity to the viewer and to each of us. Art gives us an opportunity to express so many different emotions in so many different ways.
I'm a mixed media artist, so rather than do straight panels, I'm actually doing a mixed media piece where there will be parts that project forward away from the central canvas. The front images of the portraits will be coming out basically out from underneath the umbrellas. And the charms are like these little personal tags that we assign to ourselves to kind of define ourselves for the world.
So I've had this image of this woman or this young child in the calm of the storm of emotions, you know, where she's just went through something really hard and she has a choice to make of how she wants to deal with it. And so I feel like in that moment, there's that calmness that like emerges in us, you know, right? Like you get to make that choice. It's like a choose your adventure kind of thing. Like, am I gonna let this take me down or am I gonna choose to be strong and weather this storm, you know, kind of thing.
And then she's underwater and distorted, surrounded by colors, and it's not quite a portrait because she's somewhat obscured. But when you look at it for a little while, then all the details kind of come out.
And to me, I kept on having a visual image, basically of like something that you can see that's in the shadows, but you don't know what it is yet.
So I thought about like, what do I want to be emerging into Missoula to all these wonderful people I've been around? Like I wanted to give back some of the joy that being here has given me. The Allez project was a total treat. Thank you. Thank you for letting me do it.
Seeing large-scale work on the wall on the outside of the gallery was so cool. It was just like, how do I get to be a part of that? Like, that's awesome.
And then I was like, ooh, that's something that's really cool that I think I'd want to try out.
People just walking by notice it. You know, it's not like you have to go to a show to see somebody's work. It's just right there when you're walking by and it pulls people in.
This idea of being able to share the work with everyone, you know, I think it's just a wonderful thing.